Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished filmmaker, author, and an activist for human trafficking and slavery from Vancouver, working in Hong Kong, Sylvia Friedman. Sylvia, welcome to the show.
It's lovely to be here, Ash. You are so well known for what you do in branding and in entrepreneurship. Thank you so much. I'm humbled to be here.
Thank you so much. Sylvia is an author and filmmaker. She's a Penguin author of A Long Road to Justice. She's an author of 3 books, which is A Long Road to Justice, Stories from the Frontlines in Asia, which is her latest book, and we'll speak about that. Her other books are Silence No More, Voices of Comfort Women, Heart and Soul, The Life of Pastor Augustus Chow. Sylvia is also among the top 100 human trafficking and slavery influence leaders list in 2017. Sylvia, what an amazing journey. But today we're going to focus on your books and filmmaking.
Sure.
Tell me about your journey in brief.
Wow. Well, I guess I'm also an entrepreneur, and I've been pushing the limits in an enterprising kind of way in my journalism, in my filmmaking, in my book writing. And I have a passion for telling untold stories. So it all began, when I was growing up in Vancouver, in a suburb of Vancouver called Burnaby. And I was a Korean immigrant kid, experienced some racism that led me into a career of being a voice for the voiceless through journalism, and then later through filmmaking, and then through documenting untold stories in my books. The pioneer Augustus Chow, and then Silence No More, Voices of Comfort Women, which I wanted to write for the next generation. Because when I was growing up in Canada, in Vancouver, I had Eurocentric history textbooks, and it did not cover the Asian theater of war. And I had heard about issues like Japanese wartime sex slavery, the comfort woman, from my mother, who knew Korean history and Asian history, but it was whitewashed from the Eurocentric history books. So that gave me a passion to want to document it for the next generation and to promote and raise awareness about Japanese war crimes like military sex slavery and sexual violence in conflict zones, so that I can teach the next generation. And there's a famous quote that says, by George Santayana, that if we do not remember history, history will repeat again.
Absolutely. Well said. And I love your comment that you are the voice for the voiceless. So let's start by talking about your latest book, which is A Long Road to Justice, from the Frontlines in Asia. Is this book available on Amazon?
Yes, it's available in most online stores, in some physical stores across Southeast Asia, in all the major bookstores there, in Australia. And I believe in different countries, it just depends, but online, yes, it's available. And I wrote about my journalism and my writing journey, my philanthropy journey as well. I am a dual careerist, which means I had 2 or 3 careers going on at the same time. And so while I was doing investigative journalism, I was also at one point, and I still do, I was working with billionaire offices, family offices, and I was in charge of their philanthropy. And I was the one to do the due diligence on the frontline NGOs all across China and in this Asia region. And through my journalism work, I interviewed elderly wartime sex slavery survivors, euphemistically known as comfort women, which is an awful nickname for these women and girls, up to 200 to 400,000 of them from all over Asia who were forced into military sex slavery. So I interviewed these elderly women, and then through my philanthropy work, I found some NGOs who were helping modern day sex slaves or modern day comfort women, because I argue the cycle never ended. And so my book, A Long Road to Justice, is about my long road, my journey, trying to investigate and research, uncover, expose, and document the horrors of sex trafficking historically and also modern day, all across Asia. And it was a life-changing journey as well. I was grappling with issues of my identity because I had grown up in Canada. I erased my Korean culture, my Korean identity, and I wanted to be white. I wanted to have blonde hair, blue eyes, or red hair, green eyes. And I came to terms with that. And I write my lessons, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that I can share what I've learned to, whoever is reading it, and especially for the next generation. So it's similar to your motivation, with this show, you want to share the wisdom of people who pioneered in their fields. It's that was my heart. I want to be able to share very honestly about my struggles, my failures, some of the things that kept me up at night. And hopefully it will help somebody.
Absolutely. And for my viewers and listeners, do tell us a little bit about some of your learnings and challenges as you were researching for this book.
Yes. Wow. So many challenges because no one had gone this way before.
Correct.
There was no one ahead of me, no one to guide me, except I had some mentors, but they could only give me general advice. And so some of the advice that I wish I had was to relax and enjoy and be happy in the process. Because I was too analytical. I had a lot of paralysis by analysis. So part of the struggle was there was no one else who had gone my road before, as in a journalist and in philanthropy, as a Korean Canadian working in China and across Asia. And I came across North Korean trafficked victims in China who were being rescued by an underground railroad and smuggled out of China into Southeast Asia. And there they would be flown into Seoul, Korea, where they would get automatic citizenship. So I was seeing cases, victims of horrific enslavement and exploitation. And that was very life-changing because before then, I was just concerned about, I just want to make a lot of money. I want to buy a big house. I want to get married, have 2 kids. And after meeting people who have suffered the unspeakable, it's similar. I'm not saying they are like Holocaust survivors, but it's similar to Holocaust survivors where they went through crime. The survivors I met, the comfort women went through crimes against humanity from the Japanese government and the military. And the modern day sex slaves, they were just so traumatized. And so I would say another challenge that I had to overcome was persevering and learning grit, getting grit so that I wouldn't give up because it was so tempting to take the easy road. It was so easy to give it up and say, I'm just going to go and make a whole bunch of money and I won't care about the marginalized and the forgotten. But my passion was I wanted to write their stories and raise awareness to those who had the money to make a difference. And as a journalist, when I was making the documentaries, I wanted the policymakers to know that this was going on, that there was enslavement and sex trafficking in our first world, our in our modern world. How could that be? How could that be? But
Absolutely.
it's happening.
And yet, my question to you, Sylvia, is that one of the things that we have in large parts of Asia is this stoic acceptance of what will be, will be. How did you handle a lot of these kind of responses? I see this in India, I see it in large parts of South Asia, Southeast Asia. If something negative happens, you say, okay, that's how it was meant to be.
Yes,
What are
yes,
your thoughts?
yes. And you've hit the spirit of it, where for any of us, it's so easy to just forget about it because we are so concerned about our own lives,
Correct.
right? It's so easy to just think about, our aging parents or our children getting into university and marrying, or, it's easy to have tunnel vision.
Yep.
And in East Asia, it's very common, especially for Koreans and Chinese, it's very common to bury the past.
Correct.
And to never want to talk about anything bad that happened generations ago, or the war, or this or that. So that was very challenging for me to try to coax some of the survivors into speaking with me, into sharing their stories. But once I earned their trust and they understood what I was trying to do, that I was trying to document their stories to tell the world and to expose it so that awareness would be raised, so that it wouldn't happen again. And so the former comfort women survivors said, yes, tell the world. They told me, tell the world so that this won't happen in wars, because they had heard it was happening in the Yugoslavian wars or in Rwanda or, with ISIS and all that.
Yeah.
And so that was something I had to overcome person by person.
Wow.
But once people understood the mission, they were supportive. Wonderful. Because they realized, we need to teach the next generation that this was an important chapter of history that should never be forgotten. And it taught me the power and the resilience of human beings, that we can go through so much and yet we can survive, we can overcome. So there was a lot of universal lessons as I met different survivors of Japanese war crimes in different countries, or survivors of sex trafficking, exploitation, bride trafficking. I mean, you name it. I wrote about every type of trafficking and slavery known to women and some men in this part of in Asia, where I am based.
Amazing. So Sylvia, now let's move to your other book, which is Silenced No More, Voices of Comfort Women. You have spoken a little bit about comfort women a few minutes ago, but why is this topic from the Second World War still a matter of so much discussion?
Yes, when I first started writing about this in 1999, I interviewed Gay McDougall. She is a renowned civil rights lawyer, attorney in America, and she was the former special rapporteur for the United Nations, and she oversaw the report on Japanese military sex slavery, or euphemistically known as comfort women. She oversaw and helped write a thick report, over an inch thick, on this topic. And she said in unequivocal terms that the Japanese government had not done enough to bring closure and healing to the survivors of military sex slavery before and during World War II. And she also said to me another thing, and I was a junior reporter at the time, and she said something that gave me chills down my spine. Because I was really naive and I wasn't prepared or mature enough to handle it. And she said the Japanese government spent a lot of time and money and resources to try to bury this
Wow.
UN report. And I knew at that point, this is a little bit way over my head.
Absolutely.
But I felt compelled because of my early experiences of being a minority in Canada and experiencing racial discrimination and rejection that was so traumatic as a child. Being told, by older Caucasian people that I'm a chink, or, by friends, so-called friends, just because I look different.
Correct.
And it was such a good insight into injustice because I had experienced it firsthand. And so that led me to want to be a voice and to document those who had no voice, who were silenced. And so these comfort women survivors were silent for 50 years. And then the first came forward after 50 years in 1991, Kim Hak-soon. And then it was a domino effect of other survivors who came forward and said, me too. And so they were kind of like the first Me Too survivors, advocates. And in this part of the world, talking about rape or anything about sex in public is very taboo.
Absolutely.
And for women in this part of the world, as you know, if you come forward, if anyone comes forward and says, this happened to me, then that person would not be able to get married. There was a lot of fear, huge stigma. And these women were so brave. So I felt like I have to do something. And when I interviewed each of them, they each told me, please tell my story to the world.
Nice.
And so I was touched. Because to me, they reminded me of the Holocaust survivor I had met in high school who came to speak at our school. And when I met and heard this Holocaust survivor, I thought, wow, this person is a walking history book. So these women and each of us, we have our histories. And I felt like it was an act of justice to listen to their stories, to document it. It was like I was part of the process of trying to restore a little bit of dignity back to them. Because no one, they're women and they're old, and who wants to hear them? Absolutely. But that was the passion in my heart.
Fabulous. Let me now move to your other avatar as a filmmaker. From a journalist to an author, an activist, what got you started in the business of films?
I have always been, and I don't understand why. Maybe this is a generational gift. Apparently my grandmother was very entrepreneurial, had her own tailoring or sewing business. And she read all the letters and translated some of the letters from Korean to Japanese. She was the go-to person in her village, apparently. And so I don't know if there's entrepreneurship in my bones, but I think being enterprising or having the ability to go for it, right? To get the go-getter spirit. And so I would say, I think that must be it, that allows me to try to do something new. I think most people struggle with starting something new out of their comfort zone. So I'm working on a TV series now with a company in Singapore, and we are in the pre-development or the development stage of producing a TV series based on my Penguin book, A Long Road to Justice.
Wow.
And part of it is just going with my instincts and just researching along the way, kind of full on feet first immersion into the water, just diving in. And maybe it's because of my everyone has a different work style. My work style is I'm more kinetic. I need to plunge in and just do it. Other people have to think about it and plan, but I just need to do it. So perhaps that's what made it easier to transition from each career to another. And sometimes I go back, like I'm back in philanthropy, and I'm doing more on the film, the entertainment side now. So it's philanthropy in the entertainment world, and I'm continuing to write books.
Fantastic.
So like
Fantastic.
you've written a lot.
But I'm going to be looking out for this web series that you're working on when it comes out. I'm sure it'll be a fabulous web series. But I have time for 2 or 3 more questions. It has always been said that cinema or films have a very, very powerful, very, very powerful mission to be able to influence society.
Yes.
What are your thoughts, and how will you do that, given the very powerful message you have in your books?
Yes, actually, this is my dream. And after I wrote the Comfort Women book, my second book, and that's when I started to dream. Over 20 years ago, actually, when I first started, that's when I started to dream about movies. And I was inspired by Schindler's List, because Schindler's List, the movie, catapulted the Holocaust into a global consciousness.
Absolutely.
And the world knew it, they were able to watch what it was like. And of course, no film, no TV series can do anything that actually happened justice, right? But it helped raise powerful awareness.
Correct.
And people learned more from the movie than perhaps they could have learned in their school curriculum. And so that's what I hope to do with the TV series. We want to make it global.
Yep.
And so we are trying to incorporate the messages, of healing that's needed, of, the trafficking of women must end forever, that racism must end, because human trafficking is fueled in part by racial discrimination. And I have such a passion to end racism, to end ethnic discrimination, because why must we fear one another? Correct. Why must we hate one another because of old historical wounds? Can we move forward from the wounds of history, from generational wounds? Can we heal the future and come together? And that's why my TV series, my films, I try to target the youth generation, because they are the ones who have the open minds. Right? I mean, yes, you and I have open minds, but the younger generation, there's a different openness, right? There's a different openness, and they also have the energy to change the world. And if I can reach them at a strategic time, before they're entrenched in their careers with a mortgage and all that, that would be amazing if I can help motivate some people to volunteer and to help change the world.
Correct.
So my husband and I, we have a campaign called Be the Hero campaign. It's based on his book, Be the Hero. And we are trying to motivate each person, one person at a time, to do even one act of kindness to help transform, our inner circle. It could be something for your parents. I mean, Mother Teresa, who worked in your land, she said, if you want to go change the world, go home and love your family. Absolutely. Right? So there are many different ways of transforming our communities, transforming our networks, transforming our companies. And I've heard of, inspiring stories of people who had the influence in their companies, and they were able to mobilize, their staff to do like plastic cleanup day at the beach, or let's raise money and donate it to the homeless, or let's bring in awareness speakers like myself or my husband, where we speak on human trafficking, sex trafficking, or, host a film night. There's so many ways.
Correct.
So that's what I hope my my films, my movies, my music videos. And my recent short film I made did well in Indian film festivals.
Okay.
It was on my friend Kaushik, who was a former trafficker in the notorious Mumbai brothels.
Wow.
And he had an encounter with God that changed his life. And
Nice.
he stopped trafficking women, and he escaped to Hong Kong via Thailand. And he's now in the Philippines trying to help people not get trafficked. He wants to help give them cooking skills and help them start small businesses.
Amazing. Well, maybe you can introduce him to me and we'll invite him on our show. But Sylvia, we've now run out of time, and I can just keep talking to you. Maybe we'll schedule another conversation with you.
Likewise.
But thank you so much for talking to me. Thank you for talking to me about your books, A Long Road to Justice and Silence No More. I will ask all my viewers and listeners to go and check out Sylvia's books and on Amazon.com and or Amazon.in or whichever country you're in. You also talked to me about some of the wonderful things that you are doing in terms of messaging through your filmmaking. And finally, I will be looking out for your web series, and I hope it will be completed soon, because keeping Schindler's List as a role model, if I can use that term, is so powerful to take a message across. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, Ash. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website, www.tbcy.in, to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.